students, today in this module we will discuss about the paper technical writing and communication skill. If you go at the unit 1 technical writing and basics of rather we discuss in this. The first and foremost is that to define and differentiate technical and non-technical writing. Although very difficult to differentiate what is technical and what is non-technical, technical writings often equate with official writing, sometimes formal writing. So the synonyms are like that. Basically, in technical writing, some of the things to be considered, if you go by definitionally. In technical writing, like language consideration is a must. In language consideration, language should be formal. Informal writing you cannot, is not possible. Suppose you are writing a PhD thesis or a research paper, all these comes under technical writing. So there you cannot write up choice of words should be very, it's a formal or very serious matter in that way. Similarly, technical writing, it should be especially the space content, like suppose you are writing a private letter to someone, probably n number of pages you can mention, but in technical writing there is an acceptable form, so whatever is required to the point, it is focused rather, you can say. So things will be better understandable when we discuss some of the forms of technical writings in next module. Difference between technical and non-technical writing is that there are certain rules or norms for technical writing, which is in case of non-technical writing. So you don't have any norms. You need not to follow any forms or formal kind of things. You write whatever you like. For an example, suppose I am writing a letter to my friend, to my parents, to my family members, or to my friend also. So there I need, I will mention, any kind of words. Sometimes it is not acceptable, not formal or not proper. My friend can understand. But this is officially probably not acceptable, especially language. And there are rules also. We can say rules means like how to address and how to discuss a particular. Suppose you are writing a PhD thesis and you are developing an argument. So there are different steps. Suppose there are different norms. Like you raise a question and you give orientation to that questions, then supportive arguments, then you say whatever you like and the findings are concluding part. So there are acceptable norms. Remember, the major characteristics of technical writing is that there is acceptable norms, like suppose the writer, suppose I am writing and the readers, those will be using the technical writing part. So there is a great connection between two. But in case of non-technical writings, there is no norm rather. I can write any language, any formal, informal mix of sometimes language from other, words from other languages also, and design, format, structure of probably is not required. In this sense, technical writing, especially the usefulness of technical writing is very much needed or necessary in case of academic writings. So suppose you are writing book, you cannot bring in many whatever you like in your mind as author. So you should understand, suppose I am writing, mentioning something in my book, in my PhD thesis, so there are readers who will be connected with my writing. So there are certain kind of norms. So to bring gist of the difference between technical and non-technical writing is that the language consideration is major part. Language consideration. Second is that norms are so-called accepted rules for that, and the space content also. You cannot exaggerate. You cannot write beyond the requirement. But in case of non-technical, say personal letter is kind of non-technical writing. So I write a letter to a friend, any number of pages I will mention. Sometimes switching over one theme to another. So there may not be any sequence that. But in case of any technical writing, we'll be discussing further some forms of technical writing. So there you need to mention some kind of the content flow, so that when the reader reads your write, he or she, the reader expects your writing to read in a certain way. Probably you as a author or the writer of that technical writing part, you understand what is the expectation of a reader. So probably the language consideration. Second, I say it norms or rules. And third is that space. Fourth, you can say focus. But in case of non-technical writing, there may not be a focus. And one or two more points you can add. Suppose you by reading books or journal articles or internet sources also. To my mind, these are the basic differences. To understand better the technical writing aspect, and technical writing is written for a specific purpose. Remember that. Definitions are largely diversified if you go into different kinds of books or technical writing. All the books, all the literature are probably give their consensus on one point. So technical writing is written for a specific purpose. So each and every specific purpose, the writing part is specific or not. Are different from one part to another. One writing to another. But it's not kind of a generalized writing. Probably these are the points of technical writing. And so more of technical writing you can understand. Suppose you pick off some forms of technical writings which is there in your course. In my second module, I would discuss those forms of technical writings, like we have theses, technical papers, reviews, manuals. So in that way. So I think it is clear, the first part. The module 1 is over. So in next module we'll discuss forms of technical writings. More specifically we'll discuss the thesis. Okay, bye bye.